Do we understand how much our self esteem can be sabotaging our relationships? We devalue our worth. If our self esteem is too low and we don't think that we're worthy of much, then we're not going to be asking for what we truly desire.
Boundaries build our self-worth. It's important to understand and know your boundaries.
We have to get in touch with what we truly desire. We created this cheat sheet, 5 things to look for to stop sabotaging ourselves and our relationships. Number 1 for me is have you ever been talking to your friends or you're out in these big group events and people are talking so much about their relationships, whether they're in a relationship and they just can't figure out why it's not really connecting, or they are seeking a relationship and they don't understand why they can't find that person? Then the very next cycle of conversation is, man, I'm never going to find a good relationship. I suck. Or they are talking about why their relationship isn't clicking. And then the very next cycle of that is, I'm just not very good at this relationship stuff. Then for me, it is, do we understand how much our self esteem, our very own self esteem, can be sabotaging our relationships? Whether it's in our current relationship or it is our desire to create deep connected relationships with someone else. And it doesn't even have to be a romantic relationship. We're talking any relationships, friendships, family members. You could have a very wonderful relationship with your partner, but a very not so wonderful relationship with other people that you desire to have solid relationships with in your life.
Yeah, like a sibling or a parent or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And could it be that your very own self esteem and self worth in those relationships is playing a factor? And so let's dive into that topic today because I know I navigated that in my own life and I wasn't even aware of it. I didn't realize that I was the common denominator in all of those things, right? So, have you ever been in that situation where you just keep thinking, man, I just suck at this? I just suck. Why do I suck? Why can't I make this happen?
Yes, but only after. Why does everyone else suck?
Why is it always their fault? Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, we have to make it everyone else's fault first in order to make it our own. But yeah, once I have that clarity and I get that part out, then it was always, yeah, yeah. There's me.
I'm always
I'm
there.
always
Wherever
there.
I go, there I
Mhm,
am.
yes.
Yep. Funny how that happens.
Yes. So absolutely. I mean, that's self-esteem is a huge part, and it's something we kind of I feel like we all understand it. We've all heard it, but we tend to gloss over it. And we kind of focus maybe on, oh, should we have self-confidence
Uh-huh.
or should we have self-love? And again, all good things,
But
but self-esteem is really important. It helps us really, I feel that the reason why it's so important is that it really helps us create a bridge into understanding our ego.
mhm.
And there's, to me, usually a correlation between a low self-esteem and an overcompensating ego.
Yes. Because self-esteem is really derived in self-knowing,
Hmm.
right?
Right. And overcompensating ego doesn't just have to be overinflated. It can also be under ego as well.
Uh-huh.
Because we sometimes overcompensate by being under, by putting ourselves as less than.
Yes. Which happens actually more often than not Generally, we downplay ourselves.
Mhm.
We devalue our worth. And then you're right, we attempt to build ourselves up or wear a mask or pretend to be something more than because we are devaluing the authentic person that we are. And so that begins to create complexities. And so, personally, and I know we've talked about this, we found kind of 5 core things that we went through when we were struggling to connect in relationships. There were just common things where self esteem was sabotaging relationships in our lives.
Mhm.
So we created kind of this cheat sheet of 5 things that were really getting in and sabotaging so that we could watch out for them in our own lives, right? If you have a quick list, if you have a quick way to look for, wait a second, is this happening? It's a cheat sheet, really.
Mhm.
Am I falling back into this again? Am I beginning these patterns that I tend to fall into? Then you can catch yourself. Or you can look to somebody else and say, wait a second, I tend to have patterns of behavior. They tend to be normal patterns for a great many of us. So I'm asking you, can you be my accountability coach here?
Mm.
And if you see me falling into these typical 5 patterns or maybe it's 3 patterns you find yourself in, get to know your patterns. We can give you our 5, and maybe you'll go, ding, all 5 of those. Or maybe you'll go, oh, 2 of those are mine. But you can ask a friend or someone that you know will call you to the table and say, I see you doing that. And you then can take steps to pull yourself out of that cycle and build stronger and healthier relationships, whether it's partnerships or wherever. So,
Beautifully well said.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and, yeah, what's number 1, love? Let's start there.
Do you ever get tired of that negative voice in your head telling you what you can and cannot do? My name is Amber Mikesell, and I personally got tired of that villainous voice controlling my inner realm. So I wrote this book, Silence Your Inner Critic. It's a comic book type series where you go in and you fight that villainous foe all along an epic quest. You can learn more about this fun filled adventure over at silenceyourinnercritic.com, and you can purchase your copy right there, or you can purchase it wherever you enjoy buying books. So, number 1 for me is I would feel like I was only worthy of the minimal amount,
Mm.
right? We begin to believe these narratives that you are only worthy of so much. I don't need that much. I don't need to be taken out to dinners. To be, I don't need time for myself. I'm here to be a giver, not a receiver. But the thing with self esteem is if our self esteem is too low and we don't think that we're worthy of much, then we're not going to be asking for what we truly desire.
Mm.
So we only attract what we feel we're worthy of, even if what we desire is so much more. So we have to get in touch with what we truly desire. What is it that I desire? Because I'm freaking worthy of what I desire. My worth is equal to my desire.
Mm.
There isn't a single person out there who isn't worthy of every single thing that they desire simply because they are here on this planet. They're beautiful, they're amazing. You are absolutely worthy of it. Don't ever doubt your worth. But you have to know your worth and you have to own your worth. Then you can begin to take actions to kind of bring that forward. There's always the action, there's always the ask, there's always everything else that goes with it, right? It's not like I know I'm worthy, so all of a sudden everything's going to show up for me, right? That isn't how the world works. But you do have to make the decision and know what you're worthy of, and then ask for that in your relationships. And
How could someone do that effectively in balance so it's not too much like, well, I'm just worthy of everything,
yeah,
It's like, right? Because it can be again that over, it's like an illusion almost of like we're attempting to build up our self-esteem. And so then we get into the over ego when the reality is that's a mask for the under ego. And so
yes.
how do we begin to bridge that gap and start to authentically build our self-esteem without, it's a fine line. So how do we navigate that fine line?
It is, and it's such a valuable question because we can't lose sight of everybody else is worthy as well.
Mm,
And that's where we begin to bump up against, well, I'm worthy, but that means that you have to sacrifice your desires for my desires, right? And that's not truth. So if you're in relationships with other people, whether, again, we go back to all relationships, that means that we all have to begin then to have deep rooted conversations and connections around these are my desires. These are your desires. We are all worthy of our desires being fulfilled. So if I desire this and you desire this, and they're in conflict with one another, how do we then compromise or both get to a point where your desire will be met, my desire will be met, but maybe they can't be both met at the same time?
mhm,
So, how do we then determine whose is met first? Or maybe part of mine is met now, part of yours is met now. Then we find a way to do it again in the future where the other part of mine is met and the other part of yours is met. But we have to always be willing to communicate with each other and find those win, win, win approaches.
mm.
And it can be done. Everyone's like, well, you're living in a dream world. I promise I'm not, because we ourselves are living proof of how that happens. And my family, we constantly communicate about those kinds of things. So I know it can happen in family situations where families can say, well, this is what I desire, and families can talk through the things that they all would like to do as a family and still find ways to come together and make it all happen. Same with friends. We might not all always desire to do the same thing, but the intention of the desire can be met. And that's really what we're looking for. So when it comes to attracting what you desire and what your worth is, it is possible. But that possibility comes through being willing to always communicate and own what you know you're worthy of.
And that's a perfect segue into what I think would be the second one is how, boundaries build our self-worth, right? And it's when you're going through that process, it's important to understand and know your boundaries. And that awareness of what you're talking about is key to helping us navigate that fine line where maybe we unintentionally might get overinflated.
Uh huh.
But with when we're creating boundaries and we get feedback, and whether it's in a romantic partnership or a friendship or any type of relationship, we can, as we're building these boundaries, we can effectively state, hey, like I am creating my boundaries and this is helping me build my self-esteem.
Yes.
And so I'm looking for authentic feedback on whether, on whether this is empowering and we agree, like this is a team effort, or like, hey, that's just too much. Like
Yeah.
now it's a,
You've crossed the line. Come
yeah,
on.
devo
Yep.
status. I don't know if that's the right male term, but is that right?
Sure,
Is
we're
that a
going
thing?
with it.
Diva, Devo? I don't know if it's diva, or maybe it's diva for both. I'm not really sure. That's not my area of expertise, but either way, that way we're not getting into that status of it. It's like, hey, I'm building it. It's happening. Like it's in progress, and it may
Yeah,
not be exact. It may not be perfect, but I'm kind of testing the waters to understand. And when you can actually effectively communicate that to the people around
yeah,
you, those who are deeply connected to you will respect you for it. And those who fight you on it, that's probably not the friends you or people that you want to be around. Because what's happening is that means that they're not excited about you building a boundary because they're already breaking one that should be there.
yeah. Or it's just too new for them. Maybe they're just not accustomed to it because they don't know how to set them in their own lives, right? And so it's interesting to observe how people respond because we all go through self esteem. Again, self esteem sabotages relationships.
Mhm.
And when it's low or overinflated, it can trigger. And if you begin to set those boundaries and somebody who doesn't know how to set them for themselves, it can be scary because they don't know how to feel about boundaries at that point. Should I have them? Should I not? Why can't it always be open to whatever, whenever? This is too weird. But at the same time, it begins to put structure. And there's something that feels nice about structure, and there's something that feels not nice about structure. So it will take time for somebody who isn't accustomed to that to really understand the benefits of what that could do for them and what it can do for your relationship. So there will need to be grace and space given to anyone who is also suffering in their own self esteem battle to really take hold and understand that there can be positives to having boundaries, not just for you as the person setting the boundary, but for them as the person who now has to honor that boundary.
Mhm.
And the moment they begin to see that and to feel that and to interact with that and to bump up into it and go, oh, okay, yeah, I see I crossed your boundary. Now I clearly understand why it's in place. They may start to realize they need them in their life.
Mhm.
So I would say give grace and space because there's a lot of learning curve sometimes in that. But that does go into number three, right?
Mhm.
Which is confidence really starts to create clarity in communication. And that will allow you, as you're moving through these tools and through what I even found in my own journey, when I had the lower self esteem, I was always kind of meek in conveying my boundaries because I didn't want to put someone off. I mean, heaven forbid, people pleaser Amber ever off put someone by saying, these are my boundaries. Or, like we just did, I said, well, wait a second, I understand your point, but here's something else to consider because I wouldn't want to upset you by making you think I didn't agree with you. But the thing is, when we start to develop deep, meaningful relationships, it is so much easier to have the confidence and clear communication to say, I honor what you're saying, but I have a different perspective. And here's what it is. And just because I have a different perspective doesn't mean I don't honor your perspective. It just means I have a different one.
Mhm.
And that's what makes the whole world amazing. But first, we have to have a strong knowing of self and self esteem to be able to have the confidence to have clarity of communication.
Mhm.
And if we're not clear in our communication, then we know that we have some growth in self-esteem. And that is key in all of this for me as well. It's like, okay, there are these fundamental core 5 values, and if I don't have confidence in my communication, I know I have self-esteem growth to do because I don't know myself enough to clearly communicate.
Mhm.
And if I don't have clear boundaries, then that means that I have some growth and self esteem to do. And I'm probably creating confusion in my relationships because nobody knows where I begin and end and where they begin and end. Right. So there are all of these. That's why these are on this list.
Makes perfect sense. And that's why number 4 being how self-esteem is a lens of interpretation.
Yeah.
And it's if we don't have clarity, right, then how can then we may interpret it differently and others may interpret it differently. And so that clarity can really lead to us having a better understanding of and transparency within ourselves. Because oftentimes we do talk about relationships and how we want to understand the other person or the other people around us, but we forget about ourselves. Part of this, it's a two. All relationships are two-way streets, right? And so, it's we have to be willing to have that interpretation and that clarity from within to help us be able to actually even communicate it.
We get to points sometimes where we think our lens is the only lens, too, that everybody sees the world the way that we do.
Mhm.
Right. So when we begin to understand that our lens is just a single lens and we allow the the willingness that everybody has a different lens of interpretation than we do, then it also becomes exciting too, because I can communicate from my lens of awareness. But then I open up and I'm like, okay, so what's your lens of awareness now? Because I'm confident enough in my lens that when you share your lens, I'm not suddenly going to crack under it and think that my lens is not valuable anymore.
And is it just as it's important to focus on that side, we also need to take an awareness that it could be analysis paralysis when we start attempting to view all
Yeah.
lenses, right? So it's
Hmm.
that fine line. And this is what's so tough about personal growth and why it's important to do this in a community fashion is because not one of us knows all the answers and can do everything perfectly. Like that's not the point.
Yeah.
And so, this can lead back to what we were talking about earlier, which was being a people pleaser, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're so focused on all these other lenses and other interpretations of these different lenses, and then it's just you might just get stuck and then not even realize, well, what is my own?
Yeah.
And then and you attempt to like, and I've been there where I would attempt to make mine everyone else's,
Yeah.
and I was like, no, that's mine. I'm aware of other people, but that's not real depth. It's a start. It's very good to be thinking about other people, because sometimes we're so cut off from others that we're not even aware of our own actions or
So many
thoughts or what
different
we're
ways to go
doing.
at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's very good to be aware of other people and like know that your actions make an impact, right, on other people.
Yeah.
But in this case, it can be detracting when it comes to self-esteem. And so having that having that understanding, that transparency within, then creates that clear communication, and then you're building those boundaries. It's like, they're all kind of snowballing on top of each other.
Yeah. And then knowing that you're worthy,
Hmm.
like
Exactly.
it all is together. I look at it like this, especially when it comes to the lens, and it really goes into even number 5, which is wholeness, right? Wholeness is really the way to have deep love, deep, healthy love. If you come at it from need, like, I need to have you to love myself, or I need you to love me to feel complete, then it's not really love from the inside out. It is love from the outside in. And you'll rarely do we achieve the wholeness, richness, fullness of self and love if we are plugging holes that we feel on the inside from things from the outside. Because the moment something from the outside inevitably says, I need to leave, or someone we love passes away, or something like that, suddenly the hole is back. So, wholeness is really the way to go, right? And so, when I really sit and I look at this, going back to the lens approach, right? And me being an author and a writer, and in my day, I was part of film and television and all of those kind of scenarios, writing scripts, doing things. I am the one who's penning my own life. I'm writing my own script. I'm filming my own narrative. I have my own lens. But if my life is like a film and I'm capturing it, I still need other lenses to capture other moments that I might not see. Even if I'm the director, any good director has an AD, an assistant director, to see things that you might not see, to give you insights, to do all kinds of things. There are things that you do in capturing your movie to always have other points of view.
Mhm.
You switch out your lenses. You do these things. You don't just film with one lens or a single camera, right? So I want to do that, but it's still my movie. I still need to be the one to know the whole and complete vision that I desire to create. That's mine. And only I can be responsible for it. And if it's a flop, that's on me. And if it's an amazing success, that's on me too. And so, gosh darn it, it better be an amazing success. And I better go after it with full gusto. But I still need to understand the full through story that I desire to tell. And that means I need to know the lenses that I desire to bring into it, and not just any lens will do.
Mhm.
Right. And so these tips, these 5 tips that we just talked about, help you really refine and define that self esteem, that knowing of self to tell that story that you want to tell.
Mm.
So that's how I look at it. That's the way my brain works.
It's beautifully said. And you said, "Gosh darn it," and gusto. So I'm all in. I love it. No, it's amazing, and you're spot on. What I feel like if we were to kind of really distill that down to even just one word, which is hard to do, but I feel like it's intention,
Yes.
and that's oftentimes it's hard. Intention is hard across the board. But there's that saying, it's hard not to, and it's hard to do. And so pick your
Yes.
hard, right? And so when you do have intention, and you can get a lot more clarity and understanding and about yourself, which is really, I mean, that's why we're here. And doesn't have to be a selfish perspective. Like
No.
to be here to experience myself is not, it doesn't have to be a selfish experience or a selfish approach. It can be super empowering. It can be uh, life changing. It can be expansive. It can be, I feel, divine
Hmm.
by doing that. I mean, that's for those who maybe do believe in God or source or love or something like that. Us experience the greatest version of ourselves is helping God understand God's self at that level as well, and that's a beautiful thing. And so when we do take more intention into what we're doing, like getting clarity on our self-esteem and building ourselves up, not from a place of over ego or an illusion of over ego to supplant under ego, but true authentic confidence and self-esteem and deep deep love for self, then we're just saying yes to the divine. We're saying yes to source. We're saying yes to love. And that's
Yeah.
always going to be a beautiful thing.
And so to stop sabotaging ourselves and by default, then sabotaging our relationships by not allowing ourselves to know ourselves, have confidence in ourselves, and to have a healthy level of self esteem. That's a key part. And the world will come at us in 15,000 different ways. It always does. Like for us, we've been laughing because this year has 2025 is called the year of the pivot. If you ask anybody in Suivera, our entire team will tell you this is the year of the pivot.
Insert Ross and Friends
Pivot?
pivot.
Pivot? No pivot, no pivot. Because honestly, the world has come at us from every direction. And all we can do is laugh right now because we have become the pivot champions. And when you allow yourself to stay in that healthy space of, okay, yeah, it's going to happen. It's not at us. It's not coming at us because it doesn't like us. It's coming at us because that's the way the world happens. And it allows us to build the strongest muscles possible in order to consistently respond. And so that's what we do. And it's a beautiful thing to hold your self esteem. But that doesn't mean sometimes any one of us won't fall into one of these five categories, if not a sixth or a seventh. And as a team, we don't go, you know what? We see it. We honor that that's where you are. We'll give you about 15 minutes in it. And then let's see if we can find our way through it together as a team.
Mhm.
Because again, we'll go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast. If we stay in these categories, it begins to sabotage even work relationships. It's hard. So we have to be able to make our way through these moments and not linger in them, right? That inner critic will grab hold and pull you under.
Very true. Well said, my love.
So if you find yourself in any of these five, or you have a sixth, a seventh, or an eighth that you would like to add, we would love to hear from you. Wherever you are listening to this, you can drop us a comment. You can always email us. You know how to get a hold of us. You can send it to info, @suivera.org. We're happy to hear from you. But you could also come see us in person. We have so much going on. You can see us really soon. Actually, we're going to be at Capitol Books right in the heart of Sacramento, California. So pop on over if you're in the area in Sacramento, California, and see us at a book signing. Austin and I will both be there. You can find more information on that at silenceyourinnercritic.com. And speaking of silenceyourinnercritic.com, we are having a big ebook sale. You won't want to miss July 1st through July 5th. You can find it anywhere you find ebooks. Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can get it for $2.99. You won't want to miss that one. So check it out. You can learn more at silenceyourinnercritic.com as well. We'll make sure that you can click a link and go anywhere you want to buy that ebook. But while you're here right now, you can also check out more awesomeness on the Heart Leader podcast.